recording. Before I go on, I would like to find out if you can hear what I'm saying. Am I audible enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are just 5 students, but it's fine. We can move on. And in our last class, we were talking about definitions. But today we are looking at the normative and the empirical. And also, in this session, we round up our analysis of the difference between values and facts. Like we said before, values are about what we should or should not do. And then facts are about what is or is not. Sometimes we mistake values for facts. There are factual statements with implicit value judgments. For example, look at the difference between the following 2 statements. The president has lifted the lockdown, and the president has rightly lifted the lockdown. Now, the only difference between the 2 sentences is the qualification rightly. Excuse me for 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. So the only difference between the 2 sentences is the word rightly. Now, the first is a factual statement. The second is like the first, but with an implicit value judgment, represented by the word rightly. So the second is a value judgment. Now, so we should look out for both the explicit and implicit meanings of statements. Without confirming these 2 kinds of meanings, you could be misled. You could see how important this distinction is to our business of thinking critically. Now, so that's that about facts and values. Now, let's look at metaphors and proverbs. Crucial to logical reasoning is the need to single out expressions that should not be interpreted literally. Now, as logicians, we don't argue with statements that are not interpreted literally. Statements with such as metaphors and proverbs. Such statements don't lend themselves to strict logical analysis, and we'll see why. Now, so we need to single out expressions that should not be interpreted literally. 2 of such kinds of expressions are metaphors and proverbs. We need to know what they are in order to know how to handle them as logicians. So metaphors, these are sentences that should not be interpreted literally. Examples: don't judge a book by its cover. We interpret it as don't evaluate things by looking at their appearances. It's raining cats and dogs, meaning it's raining heavily. So these are metaphors. It doesn't rain cats and dogs because cats and dogs don't fall from the sky. So that's why metaphors are statements that should not be interpreted literally. Then a proverb is a sentence with a literal meaning as well as a non-literal one. And the non-literal meaning is usually a piece of advice. So that means a proverb is a multiple purpose speech act. So unlike metaphors, proverbs have reasonable literal meaning. you can go by the literal meaning of a proverb, and then you can also go by the non-literal meaning. For example, only a fool tests the depth of a river with two of his feet. This is a proverb. Now, it is actually true that we don't test the depth of a river with two of our feet. So the literal meaning is reasonable, but it also has another non-literal meaning, which is an advice. Don't embark on a venture without proper reflection. So whether you want to go by the literal meaning of a proverb or the non-literal meaning, whichever way is reasonable. So that's what makes it different from a metaphor. Now, it takes a whole village to raise a child. That's true. The community is responsible for the moral upbringing of a child. No one can lick his or her elbow. So no person is an island. You need the assistance of other people in your life. The intentions behind Proverbs. Proverbs are mostly used to advise people, but Proverbs are not always sincerely used. For instance, the proverb "no one can lick their own elbow" can be used to encourage corruption or convince someone that it's impossible to fight corruption. So provide one example each of a metaphor and a proverb. So you can do that on your own. I'm sure you have enough of them. How is a metaphor different from a proverb? A metaphor shouldn't be interpreted literally, but a proverb has both a literal and non-literal meaning. And the non-literal one is usually a piece of advice. Meaning defects in language. In addition to metaphors and proverbs, there are expressions whose meanings are defective. So let's look at meaning defects or defective meaning. Problems with meaning. Two examples of defective meaning in expressions are vagueness and ambiguity. So we're going to look at these two meaning problems. Let's begin with vagueness. An expression is vague when its meaning has no boundaries of application. An expression is vague when its meaning is not precise. So when you combine these two descriptions, an expression is vague because its meaning is not precise. Now, because the meaning of an expression is not precise, it has no clear boundary of application. For example, he'll be here any moment from now. Now, any moment from now is not precise. So it has no clear boundary of application. I mean, you don't know when it will come. Any moment from now suggests, it means anything from this moment till, it goes on forever, till after Jesus Christ comes again. I'll come to see your parents at the right time. At the right time has no boundary of application. It could be any time. It has no limits. It is forever. So the boundary of application of at the right time is forever. That's what it means. That car is expensive. Expensive suggests that the price of something is above the normal rate. But you don't know how expensive, whether it's 10 cities or 1 million cities, you don't know. So expensive is vague. Ambiguity. A sentence is ambiguous when it is capable of more than one meaning. Sorry. A sentence is ambiguous when it is capable of more than one meaning. There are three types of ambiguity. So this is different from a vague sentence. A vague sentence has no precise meaning, or the meaning is, it has no clear boundary of application. But an ambiguous sentence has meaning, but the meaning is more than one. There are three types of ambiguity: lexical ambiguity, referential ambiguity, and syntactic ambiguity. Now, for lexical ambiguity, if an ambiguity occurs in a single word, then it is called lexical ambiguity. This type of ambiguity usually occurs in words that have the same spelling but different meanings. These words are called homographs. So ambiguity can be coming from a single word. Such words are called homographs. There are certain words that have more than one meaning. For example, he lives close to the bank. Does he live close to a river bank or a bank as a financial institution? So when you're writing this sentence, you need to be precise. He lives close to the river bank, or he lives close to a certain bank, a commercial bank, you name it, Military had 6 arms. Military had 6 arms. This can be the headline of a newspaper. So is it that the biological head of a military man or the head of the military as an institution? And then is it the biological arms of a military man, or are we talking about weapons? Other homographs include race. When you talk about race, are you talking about a competition where someone should take the first position? Or are you talking about a group of people based on the color of their skin? You know? So there are many homographs, race, chest, light, and so on. Then we talk about referential ambiguity. This type of ambiguity occurs when a phrase or a word in a particular context could refer to two or more properties of things in a sentence. Referential ambiguity occurs from the use of pronouns and quantifiers. Now, referential ambiguity is ambiguity in reference, and it is usually an ambiguity that comes from pronouns. Examples: the boy told his father about the theft case, and he was very upset. Who was upset, the boy or the father? So the pronoun he does not specify which of the pronouns in the sentence it is referring to. He used the seed to sell the soap to me, but I did not buy it. So the problem, what did I not buy? The deceit or the soup? So here too, the pronoun it fails to specify which noun it is referring to. Then we have syntactic or sentential ambiguity. When a sentence contains two or more possible meanings, then the sentence is ambiguous. Syntactic or sentential ambiguity occurs when it is clear what the individual words in the sentence mean, but it is not clear what the whole sentence means. Examples. Today we shall be discussing violence on TV. Is it that discussion of violence will be held on a TV program, or that violence on TV will be the topic of discussion? The dean will talk about cheating in the seminar room. The dean will talk about cheating in a seminar room. Now the sentence is ambiguous. Is the dean going to talk about cheating that happened in the seminar room, or is cheating the topic of the lecture she's going to deliver in the seminar room? Difference between vagueness and ambiguity. A vague term does not indicate a clear boundary of applying the meaning of the term. On the other hand, an ambiguous term gives us ideas of what it means, but suggests more than one accepted meaning, leaving us confused as to which of the meanings particularly is intended. Now, so the summary of the difference between vagueness and ambiguity is that for vagueness, there's no clear meaning. Ambiguity, there's more than one accepted meaning. The role of vagueness and ambiguity in language. Vagueness and ambiguity can facilitate equivocation and disagreement in language. The role of vagueness and ambiguity can also be found in metaphors and proverbs. Equivocation. Equivocation occurs when someone shifts unannounced from one meaning of a word to another meaning of the same word in the same passage. This is usually done with the hope of confusing the reader. So when you use one word more than once in a passage and you are using it with different meanings, that's equivocation. So it is to take advantage of the ambiguous nature of homographs. Equivocation is to commit crime with homographs, or to commit argumentative fallacies with homographs, or to use homographs in an unfair way. Equivocation is to take advantage of ambiguity because equivocation means taking advantage of the ambiguous nature of words to persuade or confuse readers. So we'll study equivocation as a form of argument in another class, but let's see some examples here, simpler examples. Time flies like an arrow and fruit flies like a banana. Now the first word flies is a verb meaning moving in the air. First of all, if you look at the sentence, you see that the word flies occurs twice, and the word like occurs twice. So there are two instances of flies and two instances of like. The first flies is a verb meaning moving in the air. That is, time flies like an arrow. The second flies is a noun indicating fruit insects. So fruit flies are fruit insects. Now the first like is used for the purpose of comparison. That is, time flies like an arrow. And then the second like is used as a verb indicating a preference for something. So the second like is that fruit flies prefer a banana. So you can see that these two words were being used for different, meanings. Hello? Yeah, the class is on. All right. The second example, I'm celebrating my birthday in a gay manner because I'm gay. The first use of gay means happiness, and the second means the state of being homosexual. So when you use a single word twice or more in a passage and they mean different things, that's equivocation. Strategy for identifying equivocation. Now, to identify equivocation in a passage, first of all, ascertain whether a word has been used more than once in the sentence or passage. So when you find a single word occurring more than once, then the next thing is to check if the word or expression has different meanings in the passage. So once you're able to see that a word occurred more than once and it has different meanings in the places where it occurred in the passage, then it means the passage contains equivocation. Importance of identifying equivocation. So note that vagueness, ambiguity, and equivocation are very important in clarifying arguments. If certain expressions are vague or ambiguous in an argument, their meaning needs to be clarified before we can proceed to evaluate the argument. So arguments are distorted by these meaning defects. When you see these language problems in an argument, you need to clarify them before you even begin to evaluate the argument or proceed with your arguments. Brain teaser. Determine whether each of the following is vague or ambitious. So we have 7 sentences. Which ones are vague and which ones are ambitious? Number 1, we should raise tax on the rich. Is that vague or ambitious? Okay, so any of you can answer any of them, and I can also answer. So you look at number 1, we should raise tax on the rich. It is vague because we don't know how much money somebody should have before you can say he's rich. Now, is it having what is rich in Ghana? Is it having 300,000 cedis? Is it having 500,000 cedis? Is it having 1 million cedis that makes you rich? Or is it when you have up to 10 million cedis? When do you become rich? It's not clear. So the word rich is vague. And then a dollar is about almost 7 cedis. So a millionaire in Ghana is not a millionaire in the US. So the definition of rich, being rich, would be different from one country to the other. So rich is vague. Number 1 is vague. Number 2, I'll be back later. The word later is vague. Later can be any time. In fact, later, the application of later is, infinite. There's no boundary of application for later. Later can be forever. So number 2 is vague. Number 3, I'm renting the new apartment. I'm renting the new apartment is vague because the new apartment doesn't specify any apartment. There are billions of apartments all over the world. So which one is not specified? It has no clear boundary of application. We have no idea whether the apartment is in Legon or is in Accra or is in Kumasi or on a particular street. No such information. Then number 4, stolen jewelry is found by 3. Now that is ambiguous because there are 2 meanings. Either the stolen jewelry is found beside a tree or that a tree found the stolen jewelry, as if the tree is a person. Number 5, democracy is freedom for all. That is vague because freedom for all, the last word all is not precise. Do we mean all human beings? Or do we mean everything in the universe, including human beings, animals, birds, spirits, inanimate objects? So all is vague, and number 5 is vague. Number 6, two vehicles collide, one died. That is ambiguous. Because there are two meanings. If two vehicles collide and one died, it is either that one of the vehicles died or one of the persons in the vehicles died. So that's vagueness. Sorry, that's ambiguous. Number 7, court tries shooting defendant. That's ambiguous because there are two meanings. Either the court tries to shoot a defendant with a gun, or the court tries a defendant in a case of shooting. Okay, so that's for the exercises. Before we end the class, we'll look at the senses of law. That is, when you talk about law, in what sense are you talking about it? If someone asks you what is law, to define law, you can tell the person that law has no, it's difficult to define law unless she tells you the sense of law she means. So there are 7 senses of law. We have natural law, civil law, cultural norm, customary law, moral law, logical law, mathematical law, divine law. Now, so there's no single definition of law. It depends on which sense of law in question. So we'll treat the different senses along with their definitions. Natural laws. These are also called scientific laws. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, natural laws are also called scientific laws. They refer to statements describing the regularity or uniformity in the patterns of events or properties of things in the world. We form these laws based on past experiences. If, for instance, you observe that the sun always rises in the east and sets in the west, that's a natural or scientific law. Other examples of natural law are planets revolve around the sun, the atomic weight of gold is 12, animals survive on oxygen, anything that has weight falls to the ground if suspended in the air. So natural laws are the kinds of laws that people study in the natural sciences. But civil or statutory laws are the kinds of laws that people study in law school. These are laws made by man to regulate human behavior, usually legal instruments, accompanied by sanction and backed by force. Examples, we have commercial law, tax law, criminal law, corporate law, constitutional law, traffic law, human rights law, and so on. They must be obeyed by all citizens, and they are accompanied by prescribed punishment for disobedience. Then we have cultural norms, social conventions or social rules. Norms are, common understandings about how we should do certain things, whether in traditional societies in the case of cultural norms, or in modern societies in the case of social conventions, and in fact in any other kind of society or group, organization or institution in case of social rules. So disobedience is not normally punishable in the case of norms, but it attracts social disapproval. So examples include how we should dress, speak, receive visitors, worship, eat, observe public holidays, attend social functions, and so on. So cultural norms or norms in general, they are not punishable because they are just social understandings. But when you violate them, you could get social disapproval. Customary law. Customary law is when a cultural norm becomes a civil law. It becomes statutory and its disobedience becomes punishable. We have customary courts in rural areas. Examples of cultural norms that could become customary law include the powers of a chief, traditional marriage rights and duties, and so on. Then we have moral law. There's no universally accepted definition of moral law. But moral laws are about rules prescribing how we should or should not behave. Usually for a rule of behavior to be regarded as a moral law, such a rule is universally respected. So anything that is not universally respected is not a moral law. For instance, do not steal. Do not steal is universally respected. There's no society where you go and steal and they'll be happy with you. So it is a moral law because it's universally respected. Do not kill is universally respected. You wouldn't find it funny if you killed anywhere, whether it's in Ghana or in China, Russia, US, or wherever it is. Do not discriminate is the same thing. Do not take another person's spouse and so on. So once a particular principle is universally respected, it is a moral law. If it is not universally respected, it is not a moral law. There are certain things that are not universally respected. They are what we call cultural norms. They are different from one society to the other. In one society, in one country, you might need to drive on the left lane. In another country, you need to drive on the right lane. It's not universally respected. So that's a norm. That's a norm. So any code of conduct that is not universally respected is a norm and is usually local to a place. But if it is universally respected, then it's a moral law, not just a norm. Logical law. These are rules for reasoning. The most common examples are deductive and inductive reasoning. Now, example of deductive reasoning.
So that when they test
Grammatical. Put off your mic. Okay. So, rules for reasoning. Now, example of deductive reasoning. All men are mortal. Kofi is a man. Kofi is mortal. Now, if you say all men are mortal, and then you say Kofi is a man, then the conclusion is just natural that Kofi is mortal. So this kind of conclusion is as accurate as what you see in mathematics. The conclusion is merely deduced from the two earlier statements. That's why we call it deductive reasoning. It is simple, it is completely certain, no one can argue with it. And to say it is not correct is like saying that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is not correct. That's why we call it deductive reasoning. It is not like inductive reasoning where we can disagree with it, Then we have mathematical laws. These are rules for mathematical operations. Example, never divide by 0. And all the rules of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, they are all mathematical laws. Then we have divine laws. These are laws credited with a supernatural source. Examples depend on the religion in question. So there are different religions and each of them has divine laws. Some divine laws are common to several religions. Some divine laws are just available in one religion also. For example, in Christianity, there are laws about relating with God, praying, forgiving those who offend us, and so on. Summation of work. So at the end of this session, you should be able to identify factual statements that are implicit value judgments. You should be able to distinguish metaphors from proverbs. You should be able to understand vagueness, ambiguity, and equivocation. You should be able to understand the various senses of law. Now, remember to do all your textbook exercises. I'm assuming that by now all of you have you've bought your textbooks. So do those exercises, because without those exercises, you may not be fully prepared. When you just read the book as a theory, it might not get into your system until you do the exercises. Okay, so this is the end of the class. I'm going to entertain. If anyone has questions, he can ask it now. He or she can ask it now before we call it a day. So if you want to ask any question, you just raise your hand and then we address it before we close. Okay, so there are no questions. So I'm going to post the recording of the class to your Sakai page. All those who didn't attend classes, you just go and watch the video. Normally, I post the video immediately after the class. So anyone who goes to the Sakai in the next 5 minutes will see the recording. Shiru Kantang, do you have a question?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, please, concerning the book, where can we get some to buy and the price of it?
Are you at City Campus or do you live at City or Main Campus?
No.
Where are you living?
City Campus, sir.
Yeah, if you are in City Campus, then go to the administrative block.
Okay.
And ask them about the book. There is a place, there's a certain general office. I've forgotten the name of the office. There's the general office. It's I think it's on the ground floor. So you go to the administrative building.
The price, what of the price?
Yeah, I think it's 30 cedis, 30 or 35 cedis.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm ending the class. I'm posting the video right away. Have a very nice week. We shall meet on, this is Thursday. So we're meeting again on Saturday for deductive reasoning. So, all right, all the best.